Okay, so what you're about to hear today is a story called Aschenputtel, which is a very funny word. Some of you already know this story. Some of you don't. If you've heard it before, just enjoy it again. Basically, it's a very old German story that has been around for a very long time. But the brothers Grimm decided that they wanted to officially write it down to keep track of the cool stories that German people know. So they wrote it in German. Then this woman, Lucy Crane, translated it into English, and the version I'm telling today is my interpretation of her translation of the German story written down by the brothers Grimm. Got it? Here we go. Good stories start. There was a very wealthy man, and he had a wonderful wife and a charming, young, intelligent daughter, and they loved each other very much. They were a very happy family. But as happens in wrong. The mother became very sick, and she became so sick that she knew she was going to die. So she called her daughter over to her bedside and said to her daughter, "My daughter, when I die, I want you to remember that the best thing you can always do in life is to be pious and good and kind to those around you." Her died day, and she would pray, "Mother, please help me be pious and good, kind to everyone I meet." She went to her mother's grave through all of spring and all day and pray. And when springtime came, the stepfather, I already ruined the story. The father took for himself another wife, a stepmother, and that woman seemed nice. And she had two beautiful daughters who seemed lovely, but really, in their hearts, they were wicked. They were very, very wicked, and things began to change very quickly for the fair maiden. You see, every day the stepsisters would start giving the maiden more of their chores to do. They would say, "Please go fetch us breakfast. Please wash those dishes." Then they stopped saying please. Then they just started saying, "Do our laundry, sweep our floors, tend to all of our obligations." And the poor young maiden's life became worse and worse with every passing day. It got to the point that she was working all day long from sun up to sundown, doing as much work as a maid. And actually, they began to consider her their maid. Things reached a breaking point one day when, after cleaning up the kitchen hearth, the young maiden was dirty and covered in ashes, and she came into the dining room with her family, and they said to her, "Oh, you're disgusting. Oh, you're so filthy. We're going to call you Aschenputtel." Aschenputtel, that's such a stupid name. That's so unkind. And they all giggled and thought it was so funny. "Ha ha, you're covered in ashes. We're going to call you Aschenputtel." But it broke the girl's heart that her father and her family were calling her that. Those of you who just came in for story time, you'll need to scooch this way a little bit. We can't use the computers. Scooch in. There are also lots of seats right up here in the front with squishy pillows. They're very snuggly and fun. All right. So, Aschenputtel's life was a mess, and she was very sad. And her father one day said to his family, "Family, I'm going to go on a trip, journeying far away, and I would like to bring for you some gifts. What would you like? What would you like to have?" The first sister, she said, "Oh, Father, please bring me some beautiful gowns because I want to be the most lovely in all the land." And the second stepsister, she said, "Father, I want beautiful jewelry and pearls, and I just want to be also considered the second most beautiful girl in all the land." And so the father agreed, "I will do those things." And he turned to his original daughter, and he said to her, "Aschenputtel, what would you like me to bring?" And she thought, and she said, "Father, all I want is the first twig that brushes against your hat on your way back home." He thought, and she thought, and sure enough, he departed. And when he came back, he had brought with him beautiful dresses and jewelry and pearls and a branch that had happened to knock against his hat on his journey home. Aschenputtel took that branch, and she journeyed out to her mother's grave. And she planted that branch very carefully on top of her mother's grave, and she began to cry. "Mother, everything is terrible, and my own father calls me Aschenputtel." And she wept, And she wept, and her tears fell on the grave, and they began to water that little twig. The little twig began to grow and grow and grow. A magic hazel tree came out of the twig, and out of the tree came a beautiful white bird. And the white bird said to her, "My dear, my daughter, whatever you wish, I will grant it." Well, if you're Aschenputtel, that's good news, right? You have a wish-granting magic bird from a magic tree. Yeah, your life is a little better. Okay, so moving forward in the story, next thing they know, the father gets wind of a story. The king of the whole village, of the whole land, had a son who was ready to get married, and that king had decided to throw a 3-day festival, and to the festival were supposed to come all the most beautiful girls in the land. The king was hoping to find a beautiful bride for his handsome, smart son. Well, the father turned to the stepmother and said, "We must get these 2 beautiful daughters of ours ready for the festival. We want one of them to become the future queen." And so the stepmother got very excited, and the stepdaughters got very excited, and they turned to Aschenputtel, and they said to her, "Comb our hair, clean our shoes, tighten up our dresses." Well, Aschenputtel did those things, but she herself thought, "I would like to go. I would like to participate in the festival." And so she turns to her stepmother and she said, "Stepmother, please, can I join you at the festival?" And the stepmother said, "Oh no, Aschenputtel, you are too dirty. You are too embarrassing to even join our family at the festival. We wouldn't want to be seen with you." Aschenputtel cried, "Please, stepmother, just let me go. I'll stand off to the side. I'll dance alone in a corner. You won't even recognize me. I'll just keep very quiet." And the mother again said, "No, we won't even be seen with you approaching the castle." Aschenputtel cried, "Please, stepmother, please let me go." The was wicked, and so she devised a plan in her head to trick Aschenputtel. She took a bowl of beans, and she scattered them into the kitchen hearth among all the ashes and embers. And she said, "If you can pick all of these beans out of the fire within 2 hours, you can go." She left the room, and Aschenputtel thought, "Oh, this task seems impossible, but wait. I have a magic bird in a magic tree. I'll ask my mother." So she opened up the kitchen window, and she sang out the window, "Oh, turtle doves, oh, white doves, and all the birds that be, come to the window and help me pick these beans up, please, for me." And so birds began to fly in her window, 2 turtle doves and 2 white doves and all the other birds in heaven. And Aschenputtel told them, "All the beans, the good ones, put back in the dish, and the bad ones you can eat if you wish. The good must go inside the dish, the bad you can eat if you wish." So the birds approached the hearth and began nodding their heads, and they began to, here's the fun part, you can say this too, they began to pick-peck, pick-peck. And the birds continued to pick-peck, pick-peck. And within only within only 1 hour, all those beans had been picked up. So Aschenputtel went back to her stepmother. "See, look, stepmother, I've picked up all the beans. Please, can I go?" The stepmother couldn't let that happen. Aschenputtel was gross. So she tricked her again. She took a second bowl of beans, held both of them in her hands, scattered both in the ashes, and said, "No, you must clean up both bowls with only 1 hour, or you cannot go." Aschenputtel was worried and upset, but she thought, no, I can do this. I'll get help again. So again, she calls out of her kitchen window, "Oh, turtle doves, oh, white doves, and all the birds that be, come to the window and help me pick the beans up, please, for me." And so again, all the birds flew in her window, 2 turtle doves and 2 white doves and all the birds in heaven. And she told them, "The good must be put in the bad you can eat if you wish." So the birds began to, and within only a half an hour, they had picked up both bowls of beans. Aschenputtel returned to her stepmother, confident that she was finally going to get to go. And when she brought them, the stepmother knocked them out of her hands and said to her, "I want nothing to do with you. I forbid you to come." Aschenputtel was devastated, and she went out to the tree, and she cried, "Mother, please, if there's anything you can do to help me, please." She cried this, little tree, shake over me that silver and gold will come and cover me." And sure enough, the white bird emerged with a beautiful white dress and white slippers, and she dropped them on the ground. And Aschenputtel picked them up and put them on and washed her hands and washed her face, and she looked nice. So Aschenputtel went to the castle. And when she got to the castle and she walked in the door, her father didn't recognize her. Her stepmother didn't notice her, and her stepsisters were too stupid to even notice that someone had walked in the door. So who should notice her, though, but the prince? You guys are very good at this. So the prince came and took her hand. Please, may I have this dance? And they danced, and they danced, and they danced, and they danced, and they danced. And any time any other man tried to come take Aschenputtel's hand, the prince said, "She is my partner." You can imagine how that made Aschenputtel feel pretty good. Well, the end of the night came, and she was tired. She had been doing chores and picking beans and crying a whole bunch. So she said to the prince, "I'm sorry, prince, I'm tired. I need to go home now." Well, the prince was such a gentleman. He said, "I cannot let you go home alone. I will escort you home." So they walked through the darkness, through the woods, and as they got close to Aschenputtel's house, she realized, oh, wait, I can't let the prince know where I live. He'll tell my father. He'll tell my stepmother. They'll kill me. So when the prince turned his head and wasn't looking, Aschenputtel jumped into her father's pigeon house. This is the part of the story that I feel like is very weird. Like, why is there a pigeon house, and why is it so big that she can jump into it? Maybe it's a German thing. I don't know. So she jumps into the pigeon house, and the prince is looking all around. How could I have lost a girl in the woods? How have I lost her? So the prince was standing there, contemplating, when who should come along but the father and the stepmother and the stepdaughters. And the prince said to the man, "Man, is this your pigeon house?" And the father said, "Yes, prince, it is." And the prince said, "I believe I have lost a girl in the woods, and I believe that she might be in it. I need you to chop it down so that I can get that girl." And the father, he's thinking, well, that's my pigeon house, but you're the prince, so okay. The father went and he got an axe, and he chopped down his whole pigeon house. And when it fell, no one was in it. The prince said, And the father said, But they both went on their merry ways. When the father got home, Aschenputtel, she's very sneaky, was back by the hearth in her regular clothes, covered in ashes and soot. The father thought nothing of it and went to bed. Well, you're going to get the hang of the story now. The next day is the second day of the festival. Aschenputtel doesn't even bother asking the stepmother if she can go because she knows that the answer will be pick up garbage. So instead, she goes to the tree. She prays to her mother, little tree, shake over me that silver and gold might cover me." And along comes the bird with a silver dress this time and beautiful silver shoes, and the bird drops them on the ground, and Aschenputtel puts them on. And she travels to the castle, where sure enough, she walks in the door. And they dance, and they dance every single time that some other says, "She is my partner." There you go. You've got that sassy prince voice down. So sure enough, the end of the night comes again, and Aschenputtel's thinking, I gotta go. I'm very tired. She turns to the prince. "Prince, I must go." He says, "I'll escort you home." He really doesn't want to lose a girl in the woods again. So he says, "All right, I'm gonna really keep track of her this time." They're walking along, but Aschenputtel again realizes, I cannot let this man know where I live. And she's very sneaky. So they come to a large pear tree, again on her tree, and when the prince is looking, she darts away and climbs up the tree. This is probably a stupid prince, right? How does he not notice her climbing a tree? I don't know. But the prince again notices, I've lost a girl in the woods. And as he's standing there, pondering, who should come along but the father and the stepmother and the two daughters. And the prince says, "Excuse me, sir, is this your pear tree?" And the father's thinking, "Oh, not my pear tree too." But sure enough, he says, "Yes, prince, it's my pear tree." The prince says, "I believe I've lost a fair maiden in this tree. I need you to chop it down." And the father's thinking, I chopped down my pigeon house and there was nothing in it, but I guess since you're the prince, I'll chop down my tree too. So he got his axe and he chopped down the whole tree, and sure enough, when it fell down, no one was in it. And the prince said, And the father said, But they both went on their merry ways. And when the father got home, that sneaky Aschenputtel was back in the kitchen, back in her dirty clothes, ashes on her face, looking innocent as could be. The third day of the festival comes along. I won't drag the story out. She goes to the tree. She says the same thing. Little tree, shake over me and cover me with silver and gold." And this time, the white bird outdid herself. It was a gorgeous gold gown with sparkly accents and little tiny gold slippers. Aschenputtel put him on, and for the first time, she felt worth something. She traveled to the castle. She found the prince's hand. They danced, and they danced, and they danced, and they danced. And any time that any other man tried to dance with Aschenputtel, the prince said, "She's my partner." Well, this prince, he's starting to actually like her, and he's starting to realize that she's sneaky. So he had a plan. He figured that when they tried to leave, he would get her to stick or stay at the castle. And Aschenputtel didn't realize this. And Aschenputtel was thinking, I don't have very many other places to hide in these woods, so I need to just escape from this castle when he's not looking. So when the prince was not looking, she tried to escape. The prince had covered the steps of the castle with sticky black tar. Again, hoping to catch all of Aschenputtel, because he's not that smart. Instead, the only thing he caught was her shoe. Her little got stuck there as she went home. Well, the prince found the shoe, and he had a general idea of approximately where she lived, because he had been to the pigeon house and he had been to the pear tree. So the next morning, he showed up at the nearest house, and he knocked on the door, and who should open the door? And the mother and the father thought, oh no, don't ask me to chop down my house. No. The prince said, I'm looking for the most beautiful girl in the land, the girl whose foot fits in this shoe. And the father said, well, I do have 2 beautiful daughters. And he brought out the daughters, and the prince said, well, great. He handed them to the stepmother, and she brought her oldest daughter into the girl's room and said, daughter, this is our chance. This is your chance to become queen. We must get this shoe to fit on. So they tried to put on the shoe, but when they put it on, her big toe was too big. So the stepmother took a very sharp knife, and she handed it to her daughter, and she said, daughter, you must cut off your big toe. Because when you're the queen, you won't have to go anywhere on foot. They'll just carry you hither and yon. Everyone will wait on you, hand and foot. And so she said, this is your chance. The daughter took the knife and chopped off her toe and grimaced through the pain and shoved on the shoe, anything for beauty. And she went out to the prince and she said, see, look, it fits. And the prince put her on his horse, started to carry her along the way. But they passed by I'm getting confused. They passed by the tree where the magic bird lived and all the other birds too. And those birds, they were on to that stepsister. They began to cry out, there they go, there is blood on her shoe. The shoe is too small, not the right girl at all. And the prince heard this and looked down at her foot, and blood was gushing out of the shoe. And he looked at her, and he turned his horse around and went back to the house and said, sir, this is not the right girl. Oh, the stepmother and the father apologized. Oh, prince, we're so sorry. We have another beautiful daughter. And the prince said, well, see if the shoe fits on her. So the stepmother took the girl into her room, and they tried to put the shoe on, but the heel was too big, her big heels, I guess. And the stepmother took the same bloody sharp knife and handed it to the second daughter and said, this is your chance to become queen. You're going to have to chop off that heel. And the girl looked at her mother, and she chopped off her heel, and she shoved her foot into the shoe. Oh! And she grimaced with the pain. She went outside. She said, I'm prince, I'm here. And the prince saw it fit. It was a little bit bloody from the first girl, but he didn't think anything of it, so he put her on his horse, and they were traveling away. But nope, those birds, they were on to them. They squealed. Oh, there they go. There was blood on the shoe. The shoe was too small, not the right girl at all. And when the prince looked, sure enough, more blood was gushing out of the shoe and traveling up her stockings. And he gave her a look and turned his horse around and took them back home. He went to the man and he said, sir, there must be another girl. Surely, do you have another girl? And the father, he said, well, I have a dirty, stunted kitchen wench. It couldn't be her. The stepmother added, it was embarrassing. Bring her out. But the insisted. He came out, and Aschenputtel heard from the kitchen. So she washed up her hands, she washed up her face, and when she came out, they put the shoe on her foot, and it fit. And the prince looked her in the eyes and realized you are one. He put her on his horse, and as they galloped away, the birds cried again, there they go, there they go, there's no blood on her shoe. The shoe fits after all, the right girl she is. I'm sure there's a rhyme there, but I've forgotten it. We'll move on. The right girl for you, the shoe. Thanks, guys. Thanks. So they're planning a wedding, and as they're planning this wedding, the bloody stepsisters realize we're going to have to do something to get our sister's favor back now that she's queen. So they asked, please may we participate in the wedding? And Aschenputtel was pious and good and kind to other people, and she agreed to let them come. So as Aschenputtel walked down the aisle, on her wedding day, she had birds on both shoulders. And those birds, they're very sneaky birds, they realized that the two stepsisters really did not deserve to be there at all. So as they walked down the aisle, the birds on either shoulder turned to the sisters on either shoulder and pecked out an eye, just one eye. Blood was, just dribbling down their faces just a little bit, but they had to go on. It's a wedding. They're trying to gain favor, so they just pretended it wasn't happening, right? Right. But as they came back down the aisle after the wedding, same two birds, same two sisters on other sides, the birds pecked out their other eye, too. Oh, that's my favorite part of the story. There's just blood and eyes and gushing. And so the moral of this story, my dears, is that those sisters were condemned for the rest of their days because unlike Aschenputtel, they were not pious and good and kind. They were wicked and false. Okay, now have a great day.